right now we're going to look at shapes. And shapes are these guys down here. Inside the toolbox, you'll see a rectangle tool, and you get it by pressing the U key for looky you. There's some shapes. I'm not sure what the U stands for, but anyway, you can click on the rectangle, and you'll notice that there's a bunch of different shape tools available to you, all of which you get by pressing the U key. There's the rectangle tool, rounded rectangle tool, ellipse tool, polygon tool, line tool, which actually draws shapes, and the custom shape tool, which looks like it's a bug or something like that, but actually it's a very tinily represented star. It's like a 10-point star or something, just looks like a bug. So don't be frightened, it won't bite. Artists have lamented throughout the ages that Photoshop does not let you draw filled rectangles. Didn't used to. If you wanted to make a filled rectangle back in the old days, you had to make a rectangular selection outline, and then you had to press Option Delete or Alt Backspace to fill it with red. So that's how you used to have to create a rectangle. And might I say, that wasn't the best way to do it. I might, and I did. And nowadays, though, Photoshop is taking care of this oversight by providing a rectangle tool. You have a rectangle tool, you can take that rectangle tool by pressing the U key for rectangle, and then you just drag with the rectangle tool, and va-va-voom, there you go, you have a red rectangle. That's all it takes. So that takes care of that problem, where you couldn't draw a rectangle or a circle or any of those other standard shapes inside Photoshop without using selection tools. But that's not why Photoshop did this, curiously enough. Photoshop did this because it wanted to add object-oriented shapes inside Photoshop. It's like some of Illustrator thrown into Photoshop. And if you have a PostScript printer, these will print at the maximum resolution of your printer. And you may be able to get it to print at a very high resolution on other printers, non-PostScript printers as well. So that's a rectangle. I'm going to draw something a little more complicated. I'm going to press Command-Z or Control-Z on Windows to undo that shape. And I'm going to switch to a different shape tool, which I can do by either by selecting a different tool from this menu here, or just by coming up to these icons up in the options bar. I'm just going to select an ellipse, a common everyday average ellipse, an oval in the colloquial wordage, and I'm going to drag to make an oval. Okay. So now, for the moment, I'm just going to hide this path outline here by pressing the Return or Enter key just to make it go away. And you can do that when you have a shape tool selected. If you have a shape tool selected, pressing Return or Enter on the keyboard will make the path outline go away, so that we can zoom in and take a look at this. Now, inside of a program like Illustrator, the screen display would keep getting better and better and better as you zoomed in. You would never see a bunch of clunky, chunky pixels like this as you expanded the screen. You only see this in Photoshop. Photoshop is just showing you the pixels bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just showing you the square pixels at 700% of their normal size. So you might look at this transition here and you might think, this is not vectors. These are not vectors here. This is just pixels. This is just a fancy pixel shape is what it is. It's nothing special. And that's because, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that, by the way. So I do not blame you. But the reason that we're seeing that is because Photoshop cannot render things. It can't render things on a screen at any higher resolution than the 100% size. It just can't do it. It's just incapable. However, let me show you that this is in fact a vector shape. How am I going to show you? Well, I'll show you how I'm going to show you. Go under the Image menu and choose Image Size. And we're going to blow up this image. Let's do it to 700 so we have that same view. All right, 700. Let's really go for it. 700%. Make sure this option here is set to %. And let's go down to the Resample Image pop-up menu and choose Nearest Neighbor, which is the worst kind of resampling you can do. Nearest Neighbor will just blow up the pixels. And click OK. And then you're going to lose yourself inside the image. That's a little unfortunate, of course. But we can solve that. Go to the Navigator palette. And notice the Navigator palette shows me the entire big image with big ellipse. And there we are. That's the You Are Here thing right there, that little teeny red square. Okay? Just click someplace along the outline of the ellipse to go there. And look at that. Now I got to press the Return or Enter key again to make the path outline go away. Look at that. Look at that. All right? So this is a vector because look what it did to the pixels. Look what Photoshop did to the pixels. The pixels just blew up to 700 times their normal size. The vector path outline is smooth. And this is what it's going to look like if you print it. Okay? The pixels print at the fixed resolution of the image, which is as good or as bad as the resolution value you set. The shape outline is going to print at the maximum resolution of the printer. So the shape outline should print beautifully.